Okay, let's address the elephants in the room, okay? I said elephants because there's a few. So the first thing is that I was supposed to actually do a full stream, like a live watch along of the Club World Cup final. I didn't do that for a few reasons. One, I couldn't really be bothered. Two, it was supposed to be a bit of a hate watch on Chelsea. Obviously, that didn't happen. And three, I was playing in a charity match. I got my legs out and I played in a full-on football charity match for the Blue Podcast Network, and we were raising money for charity. Really, really fun event. I played a full half in goal. Hopefully, if there is the full footage of the game, then maybe I can do a little reaction to that. If you want to see that, let me know below. But this happened, right? Look at my two hands and look at my right one. It's the left one on screen. You see where the thumb is? It shouldn't be purple, should it? First, and stop judging me by how small my hands are. I hear it, but I'm a goalkeeper and I'm 5'10". So all those things concocted to basically mean that when I come out and try to claim a cross, that can happen. So I don't know what I've done to it. It feels like I've sprained it, right? It's not broken because I can still move it, and this doesn't hurt at all. It hurt a little bit yesterday, but it can still bend and it can still do all that stuff. So yeah, I'd hurt myself, and we were playing on a 4G pitch, and I've scraped up the whole side of my leg. So I wasn't going to sit and do a stream after that, right? And it was hot as hell. Right, all those things meant I didn't really want to get into it. And then Chelsea went on and won the whole thing, 3-0 against PSG. I was like, of all the things to happen, that and João Neves pulling Cucurella's hair back, and then a certain world leader being in the trophy parade, it was all a bit mad. So we're going to get into really what is the second elephant in the room. This is one of the first videos on this channel which isn't purely Manchester United focused, because as usual, this is the non-toxic channel of Manchester United fans, and I've said I want to build this into the healthiest community of not just Man United fans, but football fans in general, so that when there are contentious issues to talk about, we can do so in the proper way. So there's been a lot of things that's already happened in pre-season, and this is going to be my first foray into doing it on this channel over something that isn't purely Manchester United focused. So if you enjoy it, please let me know by dropping a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and get your comments in, because we're talking about the FIFA Club World Cup. A lot of people have had their own sort of opinions on it, and I want to share mine, as well as some of the positives and general negatives about it, and also the future for what I see about the competition, because I think there is maybe a place for it, as there have been previous iterations of it in the past, and clearly there is an appetite for it in certain sectors in terms of the money and what it can mean for the club. So I don't want to be totally negative on the video. I want to give it as fair an assessment as possible, and that's why I want your comments in below. And we do kind of have to start with the fact that there are just elite and brazen financial benefits for being in the Club World Cup. Like Chelsea alone, for reaching the final, I think they got up to 80 million euros or $80 million. For winning it, they got an additional 30. So to get $100 million of any serious economic currency in this day and age in football is massive. And especially with Chelsea, who only recently have had their own financial struggles. They were obviously done through with PSR and some of the UEFA regulators. You're like, obviously that is massive for them and for any club. Let's face it, if Manchester United were in there and we'd won $100 million, we'd be singing all the way to the bank. There are some other issues we need to talk about, but that is pretty huge. As is also the amplification of some of the lesser leagues in the world. Like, I immediately go back to the Auckland City story. Like, that's mental. The fact that Auckland City, I don't care they got pumped by Bayern Munich. I don't think they care either. But the fact that they were able to be on a stage with those elite players is sick. And, those are part-time players and part-time footballers who just got the opportunity of a lifetime to play in front of thousands of people. So that is really nice as well. And not just the amplification of those lesser leagues, shall we call them, but also for what I would consider legacy leagues. Like Argentinian football and Brazilian football. Like, you only really get to see those at the Copa Libertadores and things like that. But you hear of the big teams like the River Plates, the Boca Juniors, the Cruzeiros and the Fluminenses, and the Corinthians, Santos. Like, you hear about these clubs all around the world, but then some of the other teams like that we heard of in this tournament, like Botafogo and Flamengo, Palmeiras, obviously big clubs, but you don't hear about them as much on the global stage away from the Libertadores. So to see them go up against, European competition is always a good thing to see. I mean, in the past, if you've read Pele's book, you would hear how Santos went on world tours because of Pele normally, but they went on massive world tours to amplify Brazilian football. So and Jogo Bonito, and we all want to see it because I'm sorry, but that's the birthplace. It's not technically the birthplace of football, that's the UK, but the birthplace of good football, of Jogo Bonito, is these sorts of areas. So to give them another stage to strut their stuff and just become somewhere in the world so that anyone can watch them is great. And like I say, the money is not only incredibly interesting to these clubs, it's really gratifying to them as well, because if you actually make the effort to take the competition seriously, then you will reap the rewards from it. And we'll get onto the broadcasters in a minute with some of perhaps the negatives about this whole World Cup, but the fact that it was free to view for the majority of people, I think it was free to view worldwide, I know it was for us in the UK, that's great. Like, you download an app and you could see it all for free. That's sick, okay? There are going to be some things we get into the video about some of the negatives, but to be able to just watch a whole competition for free is nice, okay? Everything these days are behind a paywall. Going forward, because I know that DAZN obviously committed a lot of money to get the World Cup, unless they do that routinely, it might be behind a paywall again, right? So to see it all just in its glory, just there, and wherever you were in the world, you could watch at sometimes 3 games a day, 2 games a day. That's nice, right? As a football fan, when you watch a World Cup, like an international World Cup, not only is it the magnitude of it being a World Cup, but also just having football on throughout the day, throughout the working day, for people like me and in my time zone, is nice to see. Now, I'm sorry, but we do have to get into some negatives, and there are quite a few of them. The first of which, I don't really know how they decide on who the participant is. The minute you start getting me into percentages and into number, all that sort of stuff, I just lose interest. But the fact that Chelsea got into it when they were in the Conference League the previous season doesn't make sense. That's not a world champion. That's they've obviously been on the right stage and they got a pretty easy run, maybe because of how they finished. I don't know how it worked, but they got a relatively easy run to the likes of PSG, who had to face Real Madrid, but they then go on to play PSG and they comprehensively beat them. So they deserve to win the final. Did they deserve to be there? I don't know what a deserving placement is for this World Cup. So I'm just confused about the whole thing. I'll be very honest. I'm very confused about the whole thing, but they're there. So maybe make it more clear to the layman amongst us who don't know how this stuff works, but I think it should be a bit clearer in terms of who should be involved in this and who shouldn't be. And, the scheduling of the games, yes, is good to people like me who was either work from home or in the office and just could watch a game, but the actual games themselves, the local times, it being in the middle of the day as well, and it was probably done so that the rest of the world could watch. I think that was the focus. Can the rest of the world watch this rather than can fans actually attend? Because there was some games where you were averaging 30 to 40% attendance with big teams involved. That should never be the case. And that's where we'll get onto it later, but they're going to be, hosting the World Cup. I don't expect that to happen, and it will be different. I think people will take that a bit more seriously than this, but it's not a good look. We don't like to see that happen, and ultimately, the scheduling of the games was straight after the season. So there were some injuries. We know Jamal Musiala's got a fractured ankle. He's going to be out for a few months. You don't want that happening to any young player. I think there's going to be a lot of fatigue happening to the clubs that went further along in the competition for their domestic leagues in 25-26, which remains to be seen. But you don't like to see players just being run into the ground constantly. And maybe that is an impetus on the clubs to rotate squads, because a lot of them played their first teamers. Some non-first teamers kind of came into it. I'm looking at Real Madrid for that with their striker. I forgot his name, but that's someone that you could say benefited from it overall. And with the other legacy leagues, like Palmeiras as an example, I'm thinking they are enjoying the fact that they can play more football because their schedule kind of aligns better with it to get a bit of a longer break than some of the European competitions. But it's clear that there is a lack of concern for the player welfare in this. They're the ones that are generating the money. We tune in to watch them play. We don't tune in to see how the MetLife are going to do a show, or we don't tune in to see how the broadcasters are going to make it look. We're there for the football, and they're the ones who, are getting paid for it, but they're also the ones at risk. So we do have to prioritize them. And this is me, but if you have to play a sport where Football, where you get a break after 45 minutes, if you need a cooling break in between, then it's not safe. So to have that and to have the weather and the different altitudes affecting the players, like, that's not okay. And can we talk about the quality of the pitches? I mean, it reminds me of old, like, American soccer, and I did not like it whatsoever. Like, this was more so in the early stages of it, when they were still kind of getting to grips with it, but it definitely didn't look like the type of pitch that a top quality player should be going on. And you're like, oh, but yeah, football back in the day, they would never survive that. Well, the speed and intensity of today's game, prior players wouldn't survive this. So you kind of have to find a middle ground. If you're going to make the game more technical, quicker, and better to watch, then you have to have the facilities in order to facilitate it. This one didn't, especially in the group stages. It got better towards the final, but was really poor. Like, some artificial pitches, some cut up, some with lines on it for American football. You can't have that. That's a disgrace, in my opinion. And, you have, like, the likes of Tottenham. I don't know why I keep bringing them up on this channel. They're still living rent-free in my head, clearly. But the fact that Tottenham, have 2 pitches for this exact reason, America, of all places, should wise up to that. It's not good enough. But that, and, I mentioned the broadcasters earlier, the incessant advertising on DAZN. And you know what? I have to just put my 2 pence in here. I used to work for DAZN. I actually did. So I used to work in DAZN just before lockdown. And I was there to see how they were going to navigate, like, a non-sporting world with COVID at the time. And it was mental. But I remember, like, looking at it, and I remember being there behind the scenes, like, seeing how much money was being spent on loads of different things. It was crazy. But I also grew to actually love the app. Like, to see, I know we don't get it much in the UK, but to see how it was operating in the likes of Germany, Spain, or the US, it was like, that's good. Like, I would love an app like that, an all-encompassing sports app for the UK. I don't think it will ever happen because there's too many players and too much money involved, but it was just great. And back then, there wasn't as much advertising as there is now because the landscape has completely changed. The need for money and to recoup and to get ROI has completely changed, and I totally understand that. It was just the incessant advertising of it. Like, I'm there watching it. I don't like split screen advertising. I don't. That's a very American thing. You see it in the NBA and NFL. I don't like it. During a cooling break in the middle of the game, five odd minutes goes past, and I'm there just watching not just a random advertiser, but also DAZN saying, oh, don't you wish you were there? Upgrade to our stadium experience. Mate, I'm watching it on my phone. How much upgraded can it be? And also, the kind of selling point to this whole thing was that it was free globally. They kept on saying this is free globally to watch anywhere. You kind of just, okay, it's free, but at what cost? You're just ramming that down my throat. So you're almost making me feel bad that it's free. You chose it, not me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was, I'll be honest, if it wasn't free, would I watch it? No, I wouldn't. Right? So that was a key selling point for me. And that's why I watched some games. I didn't watch every game. I watched, like, maybe half of the final. And that's kind of where I am with it. So it's just, it wasn't subtle. I don't like advertising that is clear in my face. If I could be genuinely drowning in somewhere and then they'll try and sell me a life raft, I just won't. You sell things to me, it just annoys me. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. It's just annoying, so don't do it too much. But maybe it worked. This is the thing. Maybe it did work. Maybe they did recoup their investment. Who knows? Not all of it, but who knows? Like, they definitely recouped some of it. So it is what it is. But the actual programming and the broadcasting, the different shows they had, I actually thought were really positive, and it amplified some of the better analysts in content as well to be out there. Shout out straight away to Lias Pasidi and to James Alcott. Do you know what I mean? Like, brilliant shows that they were able to do, and I really enjoyed watching all of them. But you can't escape, even with those positives, you can't escape the clear and pretty sad political influence of all of it. I mean, you saw the big players involved with the Saudi money involved, but also, why was the president of the United States there? Like, why was he? You saw him being interviewed, which I don't think is too bad, but you saw him being interviewed, like, about who his greatest player of all time was. I think he said Pele or something, whatever, but fine, all right, he's got his 2 pence in, he's got his few minutes, which he needs, clearly, but why the hell is any political influencer or any political leader on the podium along with the players? You didn't kick a ball. You didn't do anything. Why are you there? Get off the pitch and let the players have their moment. It was such a Trump thing to do. It was really irritating to watch it, to be honest. And there's a clip that came out of Cole Palmer kind of like looking at it, being like, is he going to move? And then saying like, what's he doing here or something? And then Reece James actually spoke to, I think it was Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, and him, and saying, are you going to leave? And then he just kind of looked and says, no, I don't think we will. I'm like, I get you're the president, but why are you doing that? It was really irritating to see it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't like seeing it whatsoever, and it just irritated me. Sorry if you can hear some dogs in the background. I think my neighbours are... don't know what's happening, to be honest. But I kind of also want to get onto the general Americanization of football or soccer. It's kind of natural that the biggest sport in the world would be adopted by the biggest commercializers in the world. Like that is, it's happened before. This is sort of their fourth attempt at getting football right. Do you know what I mean? Like in the 70s or 60s and 70s, they had the North American Soccer League where the aforementioned Pele was at the New York Cosmos, who are making a return. They're going to be my new MLS club, that's for sure. Like, I actually like the story of the Cosmos, so that's going to be cool to see them back. They're not in the MLS yet, but you know what I mean. So the NASL, died a death because they didn't concede or factor in the nuances of football in commercializing the game. Like, they got immediate interest and then couldn't sustain it, and the money was just outweighed the interest, and it fell on its ass. Then they had the 1994 World Cup, which was supposed to be better, and because part of their bid to get the 94 World Cup was that they would promise to have a proper footballing infrastructure and a league once it was finished. And then the MLS started up about 10 years later, 14 years later, I think, is when David Beckham moved there, which was the proper catalyst. And now he has his own franchise, and the MLS is becoming a more respected league. And I like tuning into it now. It's got better quality players who aren't just going there for retirement, but actually you get some that are developing themselves. You look at Miguel Almiron, you look at John Duran, of course. So it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. And it's never probably ever going to escape that title of being a retirement league, because the other ones were set up hundreds of years before it. And that's just something it has to deal with. But fair enough. The only thing I'd say about the World Cup, the Club World Cup, is it felt like a bit of a step backward from the advancements that the MLS were making. Like I said, the infrastructure was better, the pitches were better, it was clearer, and it was more succinct, and it was a lot more subtle with advertising and things like that. This felt a bit more desperate. And acting as a precursor for the World Cup, I'm just there thinking, they tried a few things. They tried doing cheerleaders and Michael Buffer saying, let's get ready to rumble, and halftime shows. Like, we already know a halftime show is coming for the final. I think we have to just accept that's going to happen at the World Cup. I'm not against that, because from what I can tell, broadcasters will give viewers the opportunity to just listen to general punditry or watch the show. And football is the biggest stage in the world. NFL have made it massive with the halftime show. They've made it clear. They've had the biggest celebrities ever do the halftime show. I need to see the biggest celebrities do an incredible show for halftime at football, because why not? How that's going to because it's going to be a longer break. How's that going to impact footballers over NFL players? Like, that is a problem. You don't want to lose you don't want to lose the momentum of a football game, which is so much harder to make up than most other sports because of the stop-start nature of it, and also because you can play with your feet, which has less directional impetus than with your hands. So it's like, it is going to be difficult to see how that works. But the Michael Buffer thing, they tried it. I cringed the whole time. Stick it to boxing, because it works perfectly. And when you say let's get ready to rumble for a fight, you don't then want the football game to be a fight or to digress into a fight, which is actually what the final did. So you don't want to be seeing that kind of thing. But overall, like, I think as a fan, the more football for us, the better, but not at the expense of the players and not at the expense of other competitions. Like, this will impact the Premier League, like the key players in the Premier League who played in this, and La Liga and all this stuff. It will impact the players, and it will impact, how the World Cup will be perceived. So I am a bit worried, to be honest, about how they're going to do the World Cup, because it'll be around the same time. Do you know what I mean? It will be longer, it will be more spread out, whatever, but it just struck of a little bit of desperation. It seemed as though they kind of stepped their stall out with it. Like, a lot of money's been spent, a lot of money's there to win. We need to make this as good as possible and get every single avenue we can. I loved seeing Doja Cat perform. I loved it. I love Doja Cat, and watching her halftime show, cool, that was fun. But it was just a mishmash of loads of different things. And this just feels like they threw loads of stuff at the wall to see what would stick for the World Cup. And I just hope that they can learn from this with the World Cup of what didn't work. And I've went through them in the video. Let me know in the comments if I've missed any that they won't do for the World Cup. For the Club World Cup now, I think it's a case of condensing it. Don't get too many players involved, because then you lose the world champion aspect of it. And I think allow the entrance requirements to be clearer and to be more in line of when the actual tournament is taking place. Because Chelsea, after the last season, probably didn't deserve to be there. Over the last 4, which is what they're saying, did they deserve to be there? Maybe, but it's contentious at best. I'm not sure. Especially when the Premier League probably, Liverpool probably should have been there. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. It's a bit weird. Let me know what you think in the comments. And again, this is my first sort of video about a non-Manchester United topic. So let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new. We are en route to hitting or trying to hit 10k before the start of the season. So if you can help me do that, I would massively appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next video.